Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on key insights. Ravi, can you see the screen?
Sorry, I was on mute, guys. Hey,
Can you see the
Rakesh,
screen?
I can't yet see the screen, Rakesh. You may have to reshare it.
Okay, give me a second. Give me a second, it's getting shared.
No problem.
All right, screen's up here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a webinar on key insights into regression vulnerability and strategies to de-risk with SanerNow. I'm Rakesh. I'm joined by my colleagues, Virendra and Ravi. Together, we will walk you through the critical aspects of this vulnerability and how our platform, SanerNow, can effectively address these challenges. Let's look at the quick agenda for today. And our agenda is quite comprehensive. We will first understand the regression vulnerabilities, and we will delve into the specifics, explore its root causes, and showcase a demo on SanerNow's capabilities on how to safeguard your environment against such vulnerabilities. Right. So let's start off with a very important question. What exactly are regression vulnerabilities? Virendra, can you help us on this, on understanding these type of vulnerabilities in greater detail? Virendra?
Hello everyone. What Rakesh asked was how these exact regression vulnerabilities are. So these vulnerabilities that re-emerge or persist despite prior remediation efforts. You think you are addressed the issue, but due to incomplete fix or mismanaged patches, or due to some code changes which removes the patches itself. So because of that, the vulnerabilities came back and haunt you. Especially regression vulnerabilities exploit the blind spot in traditional vulnerability approaches. They thrive in environments where patches might inconsistent configuration tend to drift over time, or where the security process lack automation and rigor. This can severely undermine your compliance posture over time. A key reason why these vulnerability persist in that organization often address the symptoms but not the root cause. For instance, a patch might rolled out but without thorough testing for the edge cases or race condition leading to incomplete fixes.
Right. So, Virendra, what makes them, why are they so feared? What makes them dangerous?
There was a vulnerability and they fixed someone found the vulnerability and it's fixed, and in this case, due to during over the period, the patch, the whatever patch they have applied, it got vanished. And in this case, in this vulnerability, this is an unauthenticated vulnerability, so that makes it very dangerous. So we need to address these kind of vulnerabilities with proper review during code check-in or code checkouts.
All right. Right. Let's more focus on the CVEE, that is 2024 6387. This vulnerability has grabbed headlines for its high CVS score of 8.1. It has far-reaching implications. So, Virendra, can you explain, help us understand what makes this stand out amongst other vulnerabilities?
Regression exploits a flaw in the SSH protocol handling signal protocol. So allowing attackers to bypass authentication and execute remote code. And does not stop there. It is especially dangerous when for environment using glib on Linux. SSH makes it this vulnerability very high risk because various servers in the world run SSH, and various servers are exposed to the public, means to the outside world.
Okay. Ravi, you want to add something to it?
So Rakesh, so SSH is your backbone for your secure communication across world, right? This has been largely used as the safest mode for communication between devices. Now, the regression, which is a CVE that we have identified, when it gains access through SSH, it is not just compromising one single system, but it also provides attacker to the root access, which basically means that he can attack your entire infrastructure because of compromised SSH within that particular IT infrastructure.
Okay. Okay. So it's quite dangerous and stealth. It has got a very stealthy nature, right, Ravi?
Yeah, so that's the I can use the word beauty of this entire vulnerability in a sense that whoever gains access through this particular vulnerability will not announce it and say that, hey, uh, I have entered your environment, and
Correct.
probably it will be very difficult for you to figure out that he has entered. Not just entering, but he also has the right access to elevate his own privileges, access your entire network. He can even shut it down. He can even create a ransomware within the environment by gaining access to your entire infrastructure through this particular vulnerability.
Right, right. So, Virendra, can you elaborate what makes it, a game changer, if you have to say, for attackers?
Sure. A regression exploit mechanism is highly scalable and requires no prior authentication. This makes it an ideal candidate for mass exploitation. Attacker can craft malformed SSH messages, bypass expected validation checks, effectively turning the very protocol meant to secure your system into an attack vector.
Okay,
And the worst part, many organizations might not even realize they are vulnerable.
that's true. You have you want to add something?
So now that is the whole aspect I was talking about, right? So what we think at this point of time as something that is safeguarding our infrastructure and is allowing us to safely communicate, when itself is being exploited and attacked with a weakness that exists currently, that creates a very dangerous situation for any organization, right? Typically, an organization will take months together to identify that somebody else has infiltrated their environment. So, and that then ends up disabling critical services, creating a very large business impact, Rakesh. So, hence, I think this is very, very important for all of us who are there on the webinar or outside to understand how important is this particular vulnerability, and we take quick action to ensure that you safeguard your environment against this particular vulnerability if it exists in your environment.
Right. So it's a good point. Now, as we move to the next slide, we're trying to understand the story behind this vulnerability, or CVE 2024-637. Virendra, what exactly does regression mean in this context?
Actually, the term regression is very cleverly combines the concept of regression in software development with SSH. So regression and SSH, they combined together and they formed a term called regression. So regression occurs when previously resolved issues reappears due to changes in the code base. In this case, the vulnerability is a reemerge of CV 2006 5051, which was fixed in
Think-
2006.
Okay.
However, an update to OpenSSH October 2020 inadequately removed critical safeguards, reintroducing the issue. This highlights the importance of regression, rigorous regression testing to prevent these kind of vulnerabilities from resurfacing.
So, Ravi, you want to add to it?
Yeah, so Rakesh, so one of the things you should understand is the overall timeline around this, right? This is almost an 18-year-old vulnerability, right? And now this is causing an issue. Uh, is it intended, unintended? When that update was released, nobody knows. But as an organization, we have to be very, very careful of these kind of regression vulnerabilities reoccurring in your environment. So you will have to have the right set of tools, technology, and processes to be able to identify these kind of vulnerabilities and deal with it in a timely fashion to secure your environment, Rakesh.
So, Virendra, what do you think that, why do you think this vulnerability has persisted for long?
Actually, it's not persisted. It was there and it was fixed. And over the period during development, somehow they missed certain safeguards and also they missed regression testing. Actually, so that's when the actual issue got introduced in the year of 2024. So
Okay.
yeah.
So it's also a reminder that the vulnerabilities don't remain the same, right? Over a period of time, you will adapt, evolve. People can identify these gaps and try to create holes in your environment by understanding these vulnerabilities within your environment. Okay, so it's again, I'll go back to the core point of one, ensuring that you have the right processes in place so that you don't introduce already resolved bugs back into the environment. But do you also have the capability to continuously identify the vulnerabilities day in and day out in real time? Right? That's where tools like SanerNow, which comes with the concept of continuous vulnerability exposure management, becomes a lot more critical, right? So we are in a way is like an insurance policy in that sense, right? So we are
It's true.
identifying this particular vulnerability, and we are also telling you that hey, this is there and please fix it, and also enable you to fix it. So in a way, we are better than insurance policy. We don't even allow you to have this disease in your environment in that
Yeah,
sense.
that's correct. Right. To truly understand the danger of the regression vulnerability, we also need to understand where it operates within the SSH protocol. Now, if you look at this diagram, Virendra, can you walk us through where the vulnerability lies and how it functions?
Sure. So basically, let's try to understand what caused the vulnerabilities and how this flaw works, etc. So basically, the flaw is in the open SSH mechanism called signal handling that manages certain events like timeouts. A specific part of this mechanism was accidentally removed in version 8.5 p1, creating this flaw. So how does it work? If someone tries to log in but does not authenticate within a specific time, by default it's 120 seconds. The system runs a signal handler. The signal handler uses a function that are not designed to work safely. In such a situation, leading to unpredictable behavior.
Okay.
So what are yeah
Right. Right.
so what attacker can do with this? So what they can do is they can craft a message and exploit that particular flaw and trick the server into running a malicious code,
Okay.
so which will lead to root access. And once attacker or threat actor has a root access, it's like they have complete control of full system. And mostly these are Linux systems, and most of the Linux systems run very critical infrastructure in this world.
Okay. Yeah. Ravi, you want
Yeah, I mean, again, this isn't just um, some for some academic exercise, right? This is a risk that currently exists, and public key authentication and key exchange are foundations for secure SSH connections, right? So if these mechanisms fail, your entire network can collapse. And when we do, what happens once attacker exploit this vulnerability? What kind of access or what kind of damage can an attacker cause in an environment, according to you?
Yeah, so basically, what threat actor wants, they want either information, or they want certain confidential data, or they want to stay hidden, just listen, capture all the data. So once attacker exploit this vulnerability, and it in this case it executes a code, and they can it's unauthenticated vulnerability, and a threat actor will be able to exploit this vulnerability without authentication, which makes it very dangerous. And once they have the control over the server, which is root, they can they can elevate that to other servers in the infrastructure. They can lateral movement can happen. And if it's take an example, most of the time bastion servers or jump servers are uh, towards the public network. Once threat actors get into the jump server, from there they will do a lateral movement to the actual production servers using same method. If their even if production server also runs a Linux, then it's easy for that threat actor to again get into the production servers and do more damages.
to?
Such a uh, I think it's such an easy opening that somebody has created now. And because it's also that SSH is universally used and trusted for the communication. I think if you have any vulnerability there, that becomes very easy for somebody to exploit and take over the entire infrastructure in a way. It's like um, your prime minister being a I don't know if I can socially say that, somebody very senior becoming being a terrorist in the or an agent for another country, sitting in your top level in your country in a way, right? So I'm just trying to give a common example of how critical this vulnerability is for an organization.
Right. It's also worth emphasizing that exploitation doesn't stop within that initial breach. It allows attackers to remain undetected for very extended periods of time, where especially in environments where SSH is heavily used for automation and system management. This can lead to malware deployment or even complete system compromise. So Virendra, how does it change the way organizations should think about SSH security?
So SSH is a critical part of the infrastructure for most of the organizations. So it is secure. I won't say it is not secure. It is secure enough for so long, and due to some mistake whatever vulnerability was there in the previously, and it got introduced. So going forward, so the people need to think how why it happened. They need to root cause how it happened, what are the precautions they need to take it, and even they need to understand how they can proactively find these vulnerabilities, or if during regression, if regression is not done properly, or not, or they need to literally have a system where it can those systems can check all the critical, even though people assume the all code is fine. They can always try to create a framework where they can uh, test those critical vulnerabilities are not getting introduced in the future, or not broken.
Correct. That's very well said. Yeah. Okay, moving to the next slide. Understanding, the root causes of regression is key to mitigating not this vulnerability, but others like it. So now let us know why this exists and why it is so persistent. So can you, Virendra, can you help us by explaining some of the primary technical issues?
Yeah, as explained earlier, the actual issue was the in the while handling signal handling. So if someone tries to log into a system and does not have authenticated with a specific time, like if I'm trying to log into a system and I don't authenticate within a time. So that time it is handled in a different way, and the default timeout for that is 126 seconds. So when that happens, the signal handler uses function that are not designed to work safely in such a situation, leading to this leads to unpredictable behavior. So what attacker can do is he can craft a message and send it to a SSH server, and tricks, and it can if it's little complex, it's not direct, because it requires lot of attempts to exploit this vulnerability. But if it is successful, it the attackers gets a complete privilege. Let's take an example how attacker can gain access. So first he will try to find a servers running vulnerable OpenSSH servers, and he sends a crafted packets to initiate a login grace period timeout counter. So this triggers the signal handler repeatedly aiming the corrupt of memory, and sometime it can execute the arbitrary code also. Once it executes the arbitrary code, so whatever threat actor try to execute, probably mostly they will try to gain the access of root privileges. So yeah, once it's access successful, then they will get complete root access of the system.
All right. Okay. It's very quite intriguing. So, do you want to add to this?
No, I think most of it, I think Veer was already covered. We spoke about asynchronous processes. We spoke about race conditions. All of that, I think, is already covered with a real-time example of how somebody can exploit as well, Rakesh, right? So we can probably move forward to kind of understand what could be the impact of this particular vulnerability in real time, and then we can probably slowly jump into our platform discussions as well, Rakesh.
All right. All right. Okay. We'll move ahead. Okay, this is some of the, if you explore the root causes. Now let's look at the OpenSSH versions that are affected and understand why these systems remain vulnerable. Virendra, can you start by highlighting the affected versions, and
Sure.
it should be very
So yes, A regression impacts OpenSSH version from 4.4 P1 to 8.5 P1 and extends to versions up to 9.8 P1. What's striking there is that even with the incremental updates, the vulnerability persisted due to improper handling of race conditions in SSH protocol. Especially earlier versions patched some issues but introduced some other ones.
All right. Okay.
So this is like a classic example, Rakesh, of how we try to fix a problem with the patching without addressing the underlying system flaw itself, right? Even in the first version, if somebody had really thought through and addressed the root cause, um, even in future updates, that problem would have not reoccurred again, right? So in OpenSSH version 4.4 P1 till 8.5 or 8.5 P1, for instance, the handling of SSH protocol race conditions was inconsistent, and that is what is leaving the door open for the attacker to exploit.
All right. So, Virendra, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for versions 8.5 P1 to 9.8 P1, the situation worsened because these updates inherited flaw from the earlier patches, despite the incremental security improvements. These versions remains vulnerable due to reintroduction of issues in a different form.
All right. Okay. Now, that's a cascading. That cascade effect is dangerous. When widely used protocols like such. All right. So, Ravi, why do you think these flaws, persisted across so many versions?
So see, also it's two things, right? SSH is sought to be very secure, which also then creates this complacency and oversight, and also by nature it is little complex. So being highly trusted, deeply embedded protocol, it makes it difficult to overhaul the entire underlying architecture without risking the disruption. And I think this is what would probably lead to slower adoption of the patches as well in a lot of the organization. It's also, for example, if you're comparing the migration from, say, TLS version upgrades, right? It's typically not a very quick, swift upgrades that happen because there are a lot of dependency that are created at an application level most of the times. So this is also very, very similar to that. So hence, there is a delay in actually adoption of the even the latest patches that are actually getting released.
So, Virendra, you want to add to that?
Yeah, as Ravi rightly said, with the proper example, like apart from SSH, TLS or SSL is one more example where these are the libraries which are used by various applications or various servers. So that is also, as he said, it's not very easy to adopt the patches. It will take some time, and also they need to think twice. Their application is not broken once if they patch these things.
That's true. Now, we've covered the technical details. Now, let us look at the real world impact, of this, quality. Uh, Now, Virendra, can you help us understand the full scope of this impact?
Yes, the impact of this vulnerability is significant for several reasons. First and foremost is it's unauthenticated, and it is leading to a complete root access. If attacker can threat actor can able to execute remote code, so he will literally get the root access. So this is the highest level privilege, which allows them to execute later stage any commands on the Linux system. So once the attacker have root access, they can literally do anything on the system, from installing a malware, accelerating the sensitive data, or even distributing the operations, critical operations, or sometimes he will just stay there, listen what is happening, and in the future also he will start collecting all the data.
Right, Ravi? You want
So I think we kind of touched upon some of these aspects in the earlier part of our discussion.
to? Okay.
One of the key aspects is, like I said, SSH is a foundation to secure communication, and anybody exploiting any vulnerability in SSH can persistently have access without anybody knowing about it, right? And that is such a dangerous situation to be in, Rakesh. It's like
That's
somebody
true.
staying in your home persistently because he has keys to your home, but you don't know if he's coming in and going out.
That's true. It's very scary. And there's also this lateral movement issue that wherein attackers, once they gain access through SSH, they can, pivot across your network, compromise other systems. And we should also be wary that SSH is widely used for internal communication. So if attackers move from one system to other undetected, they gain access to anything, just about anything. Videndra?
Yes, they can really what we are really here talking about here is a multi-faced breach that goes well beyond initial point of entry. As I mentioned in the earlier point, most of the time jump servers or SS bastion servers are public facing, and once they are able to get control of those systems, then from there they can jump into all other servers which are behind the network, which are actually secure, not open to public as well. So once attacker have these controls, he can literally do lot of damages. Take an example: if there is a healthcare system and their servers are running some kind of Linux systems for sure in the back end. Uh, and consider if one of their system, production system or a bastion server is open to public due to misconfiguration or it is required as per them. So in that case, threat actor literally able to get into the just bastion server or the production server. He will be able to get a root access by executing remote code execution, and also he can deploy ransomware, or he can literally encrypt the all the data. If it is healthcare system, if it is very critical, especially in healthcare, because patient's data is very critical. Take an example: if a patient is there and he's about to go to operation, and his health data is not available, so the actor encrypted the whole data, or he deployed a ransomware which encrypted whole data, and that patient data is not available, which is very critical for the operations. So
Correct.
yeah, it can have lot of effects.
That's very true. When coming to this slide, here we are trying to compare regression with other high severity vulnerabilities, and this is a comparison primarily that will help us understand, why this is not just a vulnerability. It is it comes with its own set of risks and exploitation potential. Virendra, how does this regression stack up against similar vulnerabilities of same severity levels?
Yeah, when we compare regression, the CV 2024-6387 to other vulnerabilities like Print Nightmare, which is 2021-34527, or Apache Struts, which is also Strut RC, which is 2017 9805. We start to see why regression is so dangerous. So I mean to say, why regression is critical, why regression testing is critical. So unlike those vulnerability which may require particular authentication or a specific knowledge of the target system, regression is an this regression vulnerability is an unauthenticated remote code execution vulnerability. That means it does not need any prior authentication.
Yeah, so print nightmare, for example, if I recall, requires some form of initial access or a privileged permission, while regression opens the door for your entire environment with very, very minimal effort. So this could create havoc in your entire environment because the just the attack surface is so huge, and access to your entire organization in one single click, creating automated packets makes it extremely powerful in the hands of threat actor, Rakesh.
Virendra, you want to add to that?
Yeah, the potential for mass exploitation with regression is astronomical because SSH is everywhere, and many SSH it's exposed. SSH ports are exposed all over the world. I think if we see around 14 million, 12 to 14 million SSH servers are publicly facing as per a certain census and Shodan. Attackers don't need to specifically tailor their attack to individual system. They can scan the network and target any vulnerable systems or service they find. So out of these 14 million or 12 million, so attacker can find at least a few lakhs SSH servers which are vulnerable to this regression vulnerability.
So we are just like a sitting duck, right? In a sense, because a cyber criminal looking for an easy path to gain access to entire infrastructure, I think he has the best possible opportunity to do that with regression exploit. And like we discussed earlier, it's you will not know at all that somebody has come and sit in waiting for the right opportunity. Um, for example, if we look at nightmare again, we could figure out that somebody has exploited it. There will be some log entries or DLL entries, or DLL injections, but with uh, regression, I think it's going to be tough if we don't really focus on this vulnerability, take it seriously, treat it like a very, very serious zero-day vulnerability and just fix it immediately. I think a lot of organizations will be at a huge risk.
So what I understand, Ravi, from your brief, it's not just a vulnerability. It's a risk that can stay under the radar for a very long time, right? Virendra?
Correct.
Yeah, Virendra, you want to add?
As rightly Ravi said rightly that we are a sitting duck. Yes, sometime what happens is threat actor needs one critical vulnerability to get into the system, and we can't do anything unless we do a proactive monitoring or proactive mechanism, prevention things which we take. Otherwise, we'll be like a sitting ducks for sure. The Yep.
That's something that we need to be wary about. This is extremely dangerous. Now let us now let's now break down the entire attack process. And understand how attackers gain control while exploiting this regression vulnerability, especially the CVE. Let's go through the steps on which how this vulnerability is gets exploited. Virendra, can you walk us through the stages of this attack so that we get more
Sure.
clarity on this?
Sure. So, ideally, what threat actor try to find? vulnerable SSH server. So they normally they use various tools to find out vulnerable servers. As I mentioned, there are around 12 to 14 million SSH servers which are publicly facing. So out of that, they need to figure out what all SSH servers are vulnerable. So once they find the vulnerable servers, then they need to craft a packet and send that crafted packet to a SSH service. So it's able to once the SSR is not able to handle, and if it is able to execute the code, whatever present in that crafted packet which threat actor has sent, so it will execute that code. Once it executes that code, attacker will get, probably most in this case, he will get a root access. So once he gets the root access, then he will use other mechanisms to laterally move into the infrastructure, so which can lead to a potential critical servers as well. So sometime there are other servers where they store all the cryptographic keys. If they are able to steal those cryptographic keys, that will lead to much bigger disasters. So yeah, that's how the attackers will be able to get into or penetrate the infrastructure using these vulnerabilities.
All right. Okay. Now, so we understand. Now, let's dive into why it is a high risk now vulnerability. Now, highlights. Now, this highlights the rarity of open SSH vulnerabilities, and how regression vulnerability amplifies this risk. Now, why is it, Virendra? Why is it unique? Why is open SSH so unique in the context of vulnerabilities?
Okay, let me put it in this way. What are the good things about this vulnerability, and what are the bad things about the vulnerability? So one good thing about this vulnerabilities, exploitation is a little complex. It's not easy. The attacker need to try a lot of attempts to succeed, and also there are various security mechanisms such as ASLR, DEP. These protection mechanism will make exploiting this vulnerability much harder. And also, quick there are very quick and simple workarounds to avoid remote code execution. So these are the good portion of it. So what's bad about it? So the bad things are like, it's unauthenticated. You don't need an authentication to exploit this vulnerability. And default configuration, most of the time, when vendor provides a configuration, most of the organization keeps the default configuration. So this vulnerability exists in the default configuration itself, which increases the impact and exploitability in the real world scenario. And also the vulnerability impacts default configurations, exposing many systems to risk. And also this what is bad about, one more thing bad about is, this highlights the failure of regression testing, as previously fixed issue was reintroduced.
Okay, Ravi, you want to?
Yeah, it's like your reputation precedes you, and your reputation itself is a problem for you in future, right? So, it has a reputation of being a very secure source of communication. It's trusted worldwide. So you expect it not to have any shortcoming or vulnerability. Now, once you understand and identify that itself can uh, create an issue for you, and this itself then becomes the largest attack surface for any threat actor, Rakesh. So
That's true.
again, hence for the IT teams to keep an open eye. to not just blindly trust anything, right? I mean, you may have the most secure environment with best practices in place, but for you to have the visibility of what is happening in your organization regularly is of utmost importance, in my opinion, in today's day and time.
Correct, correct. Viru, you want to add to this?
As Ravi rightly said, we need to continuously monitor these things because threat actor need to succeed once, and whoever is defending the organization, they need to dodge all the balls or all the attacks coming towards them, so they cannot even let go one attack as well. So for these things, as Ravi mentioned, monitoring is one of the critical aspects of it. And also sometimes it creates a false sense of security also. So organizations are confident in robustness of OpenSSH, so they don't give it the attention it deserves. When vulnerabilities like regression appear, they often go unnoticed until it's too late. Attackers know what IT teams are less vigilant with, OpenSSH, and they can exploit these underestimation to launch attacks. So, especially, it becomes an overlooked risk waiting to be exploited.
All right. Let me move to the next slide. All right. Now, uh, Now, now that we have covered the details of this regression vulnerability and why it is such a high risk threat, let us talk about how we can prevent, detect, and mitigate such vulnerabilities in real time. And this is where SecPod's SanerNow CVEM platform come in. Ravi, can you walk us through how SanerNow can help in protecting against these vulnerabilities?
Absolutely. I'll be more than happy to take a few minutes, give a quick overview of our platform and how we understand this entire process as well. How do we identify risks? So, give me a second where while I share my screen and give you an overview of. Just give me a second here. All right. Okay. Screen. Okay. So I have shared the screen. Rakesh, you can confirm to me
Yes, please.
what you're seeing on the screen. Are you seeing the unified dashboard of our platform, or are you seeing the device screen?
The device screen,
All right.
cyber hygiene score. Yeah.
Just a minute. Okay. All right. So, team, for you to even understand if this risk exists or any risk exists, what is important for you to have to start with have a visibility of your infrastructure, right? So you need to have a good set of tools that can do a deep dive discovery of your environment, and basis that you should have a solution that can detect what are the risks across different processes like software vulnerabilities, misconfigurations, posture anomalies, or missing patches. Then on top of that, you need something that can do the reprioritization of all these risks according to the security practices, tools, and controls that you have, and then also have a solution that can remediate, right? From CNNO perspective, what we do is to bring this entire concept of visibility, assess, prioritize, and remediate in one single pane of glass view with one single unified platform, right? So coming back to specifically identifying certain set of vulnerabilities, yes, we can quickly just jump into our vulnerability management module, where the backbone of our platform here is our own commercial grade escape feed, which is largest in the industry. We do about 2 lakh plus security checks on a daily basis. We provide the latest vulnerability information within 24 to 30 hours. We have provided about virtual patches for 0-day vulnerabilities 87% of the time over the last year, right? So our scap feed is also used by other large technology vendors in the industry. So our scap feed is used to do about a billion scans every year as on date. Now, looking at this particular screen that you see, so we have kind of displaying all the vulnerability data across the criticality, across exploitability, and we are also mapping which are those vulnerabilities which are likely to have some kind of high fidelity attack mapping, so that you can build your own set of preventive strategies around which are those vulnerabilities that needs to be fixed first, right? And this vulnerability information is not only available for you at a glance level, at a summary level, but you also able to get this information at an individual device level along with the severity distribution, right? And the vulnerabilities can also be kind of understood at each CVE level, along with what is the severity, which application is impacted, how many hosts are impacted, when did we detect it, when was it released, and all of this, right? Further, you can also perform quick actions of fixing these specific vulnerabilities here, right? So um, so let me just quickly check if I do have this particular vulnerability that we are talking about, that is the regression. See, so with my vulnerability solution, I'm able to detect the regression vulnerability, right? So it gives you complete details. For example, if you do wish to see this particular vulnerability, you can just click on this, go through the detail of this particular CVE. It also tells you some kind of summarized information of what is this vulnerability is all about. So for example, if you look at the title or the summary and description of this vulnerability, it says it's a security regression of a CVE 2006-5051, which was discovered in OpenSSH, which is what all this while we spoke about. Viru kind of highlighted that this was an earlier vulnerability which existed, which has reoccurred again, right? And also he said it is a play on SSH and regression being combined, right? There is also a CVSS severity that is identified, and then you will also see that it tells you what are those assets that are impacted and how many devices that are impacted. If you do wish to see that, you can just click and it will list out what are those applications that are impacted and which are those devices on which this particular vulnerability currently exists. So from this screen, you can perform a couple of actions. You can just select them. You can say, I want to exclude this, assuming you have certain controls and you want to kind of say that, hey, I don't care about this particular vulnerability right now because I know I'm secure. You can also build an exclusion policy using the solution. But the right thing to do would be in this particular case, considering this is such a broad ranging vulnerability, would be for you to just create a remediation job and patch it immediately. So from SanerNow perspective, we not only tell you what is this vulnerability and identify that, and we tell you on which all applications and hosts this particular vulnerability exists, we also help you remediate it. So to do that, you can just click on remediate, and it will help you with the understanding of what are those patches that you need to deploy, and what is the overall risk count that you're going to reduce, and which all devices on which this patch is going to get deployed. So you can just select this and you can click on approve, and it will create a patching task for you to go ahead and deploy the patches using a solution, right? It's as simple as that. With SanerNow, you not only just get the visibility of your entire IT infrastructure, but you will also be able to identify the vulnerability and you can also fix it, right? Um, right? So here you can just click on apply selected patches and it will allow you to create a task for patching. So again, the beauty of our solution is for you is the controls that we provide as part of our overall capability, right? You can control when the remediation should happen. Would you want to do the remediation immediately or after a scheduled scan or a custom date and time? Or you can also control how the reboot happens, right? You can think of kind of control. See, reboot is one of the biggest challenges today, why people don't patch immediately. So if you can automate the entire reboot process with multiple options that are provided to administrator, I don't see a reason why anybody would not want to patch their environment to make it more secure, right? You can control when the remediation should end, what kind of notifications you want to trigger. You can send system level notifications. You can also send notifications over an email. You can even bundle the scripts. You can have a pre and post script. We support wide ranging scripts across Windows, Unix, and Mac OS platforms. And you can also configure a test and deploy capability across your patching lifecycle using a solution. The other important thing is you can also create an automation job here using our patch management module, where you will be able to just go ahead and select certain set of applications or devices, and you can quickly create an automation rule, right? And you can create different policies for different severity of patches. And then basis this, you can go ahead and create a task that can run at a regular frequency, and you can create different policies across different groups of devices. So basically what you can do is a complete zero touch patch management policy that you can deploy using our solution at this point of time, right? Outside of this, the major challenge for the enterprises is also about identifying the right criticality of the vulnerabilities and then do the planning associated with the risk prioritization, right? So one of the bedrock for criticality of vulnerability is CVSS, which is Common Vulnerability Scoring System. All right. Now, even though this has been the foundational element for developing a prioritization matrix for vulnerabilities, there is also a drawback of CVSS is it is not necessarily contextualizing the criticality according to the organization security controls and practices and processes which is there. The vulnerability is just being defined at a platform or a product level, right? So to avoid this, what we usually do is to go back and adopt another standard called a stakeholder specific vulnerability categorization, which is just opposite of CVSS, that is SSVC, right? That's the play of the word there. So SSVC is a unique concept that is defined by NIST. And here we take a look at aspects like what kind of processes and controls you have in your organization, right? To start with, we for example look at what are the critical devices and applications in your environment, okay? And basis that, we go back and help you do the reprioritization of the risks. For example, if you're able to view the screen, you will see that we first try and understand what are the critical devices in your environment. And then we jump into what are the critical applications. We also then ask questions like, hey, are your users trained about cybersecurity practices? Do you restrict certain websites? Do you block any JavaScripts? Or do you have any controls around how the remote security log happens? How do you manage? So all of these questions are again mapped to certain kind of MITRE IDs, right? So why is a MITRE ID important? Each of this MITRE ID will also tell you or give you the tactics and techniques that you can use to exploit a certain type of vulnerability. So by mapping these questions to the MITRE tactics and techniques ID, we are basically trying to understand the scope of the security practices that you have. And basis this information, we go back and help the customers do the reprioritization of all the risks within the environment into these broad categories called act, attend, track, star, and track, right? Now, typically, if you go by CVSS as a foundational element, 53 to 58% of the identified vulnerabilities are mapped as critical, right? But when you use the SSVC methodology, the criticality comes down to about 7 to 8%. Now, that is more manageable, more realistic in nature, right? If you take nature in general, You can't have anything 50%, more than 50% being critical, right? From a probability perspective, it doesn't make too much of sense. So adapting to SSVC will help you identify these risks, map it properly within your environment, and then plan the entire patching cycle based on this. While we are doing the reprioritization, we also look at concepts like how easy is for somebody to exploit this vulnerability within your environment. Can these exploits be automated? And then we look at total or partial technical impact and what is the risk to the essential devices. So basis this, we go back and do the reprioritization of all the risks across applications and across devices within your environment here, right? Now, coming back to this specific vulnerability of 6387, right? So again, in the risk prioritization module also, you will see this, right, available here. And from here, again, you can also understand how did we arrive at the reprioritization, right? We use something called as tree view methodology. So you can just click on that and it will tell you why did we do the reprioritization of this risk as act, right? You start with exploitation, we check if it is high, is it automatable? If it is not, we then check what is the technical impact, and it cause total technical impact for the machine well-being services, right? So with the SSH kind of a vulnerability, you will always have total technical impact. There is no partial impact, right? Because anybody gaining access to through this particular vulnerability will be able to gain access to your entire environment and make whatever changes he wants to make throughout your IT infrastructure. Hence, we have gone back and done the reprioritization as act in this particular case, right? And from here again, you can just create a remediation job for the IT team to go ahead and patch this particular vulnerability across the environment. All right. So, Rakesh, I will just take a pause here and I'll let you ask any questions if you have.
Yeah, you can ask any. Does anybody has any questions that we would like to take it up? Feel free to answer and ask any questions, and our experts here would be glad to answer them. No questions as such.
All right. So I think we covered the aspects of what our tool can do and how we identify the vulnerability. We specifically spoke about CVE 20246387. We also spoke from an aspect of doing the reprioritization of the risk and patching. So all of this together is provided as one single unified platform in SanerNow. So we also provide a 5-minute scanning capability from a discovery perspective and also from an aspect of identifying the risks. And we provide the capability for the enterprises to continuously scan, continuously remediate across vulnerabilities and also across misconfigurations using our solution, right? And
Right.
if people on the forum are interested to understand more about our platform, they can always log into www.secpod.com, request for a trial, and we are more than happy to provide you access to our platform to experience the complete functionality of a solution yourself.
Right. That's very interesting, Ravi. Very interesting demo. Right.
So I have stopped sharing the screen.
Right. Give me a second. We'll
Yeah.
just now just we will move to the next slide, which is when we are coming to the end of this webinar, and we just want to make you realize, to truly understand the power of Saner now, we need to explore the engine that drives it, which is the SecPod's vulnerability intelligence. This is what which gives Saner the cutting edge, making it capable of identifying and managing even the most complex and elusive vulnerabilities. Virendra, can you help us understand this intelligence that is enhancing Saner's capabilities?
Yeah, sure. So So this intelligence, whatever Ravi mentioned and Rakesh mentioned, these intelligence are done over the period 15 plus years of effort, and this drives SanerNow, or you can say backbone of the SanerNow, and every day our team, threat intelligence team, do the research and cover all the critical vulnerabilities which requires immediate attention, along with all the things which needs to be covered. So our intelligence library is one of the largest in the world, with over 1,75,000 security checks covering
Yeah, it's now
everything
increased
from.
to Virendra. Now it's 190,000, right? It's increased.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
close to
yeah, I
2 lakhs.
think so.
That's what
Close to 2 lakhs, I can say.
yeah.
So yeah, close to 2 lakhs, because every day we are covering so many things, and yeah, now it is 2 lakhs. So our intelligence integrates with multiple frameworks such as CVE, CWE, CP, SCAT, all the things. These feed also provide actionable data insights, each vulnerability details, severity, exploitability, and also we provide remediation as well. So along with that, we also provide if any threat malware is exploiting certain vulnerabilities, we give that intelligence also in our SanerNow platform.
Ravi, you want to add to this?
So, addition to what Viro anyway touched upon the malware enumeration or malware vulnerability, but we also look at something called as common remediation enumeration, which basically helps us identify the right remediation that needs to be applied for an identified vulnerability or a risk, right? So with Sena now, you get a real-time alerts and actionable insights, empowering teams to quickly mitigate these risks before it can get escalated to a full-blown attack. But idea is that we are a preventive technology. We believe prevention being better than cure. So we help our customers identify the risks beforehand so that they can take certain mitigative actions as and when required. So another critical aspect of a solution is also detailed vulnerability scoring. Like I kind of explained earlier, we have the CVSS, which is Common Vulnerability Scoring System, and a scoring aspect. It helps customers understand the urgency of each issue. But on top of that, we also apply SSVC, which is a stakeholder specific vulnerability categorization, to do the reprioritization of the risk and provide the right criticality of the vulnerabilities, which will kind of end up helping customers deal with vulnerabilities like regression as well, Rakesh.
Right. Virendra, any add to this? Viren, you want to add to this?
Okay, I was on note. Okay, yeah. Every day, this threat intelligence is not static. Every day, our team, threat intelligence team, or security intelligence team, work day and night to cover these vulnerabilities. And Sena now continuously gets updates with this intelligence, making it more smarter every day. And also, it can help us to identify latest vulnerabilities, and also help them to mitigate. So those are the things which are very much critical. So this dynamic evolving intelligence is what makes Sena now vulnerability management platform so effective in a rapidly changing threat landscape.
Correct. Ravi, would you like to take us through the SCAP repo, a brief showcase so that our audience know what SCAP repo is and the kind of intelligence that we have?
So again, the SCAP repo is the foundational element for our solution. So we kept talking about SCAP repo throughout our conversation here. So SCAP is your security container automation protocol. It's a protocol which can be used to document the vulnerability intelligence. So we have been one of the largest contributor for the SCAP repo. On basis that we created our own commercial grade SCAP feed today, which is again largest in the industry. So this feeds intelligence to other large technology vendors who use our SCAP feed in the backend to generate vulnerability intelligence, Rakesh.
Great. It's very interesting. All right. So I think we have seen the platform demo. So any questions? We would like to take some very good questions from your end. We are waiting for them. Right. All right. So thank you for being a part of this webinar. Just in case you would like to know more about SecPod, you can visit us at www.secpod.com, or you still have some questions that comes to you, you can always mail us at info@secpod.com. We would be glad to address all of them, and we'll also like to take you through this platform in greater depth. Right? Thanks for your time. Thanks, Viru. Thanks, Ravi, for your insightful conversations, and really thank everyone for attending this webinar. Have a
So,
nice day.
Rakesh, hopefully people don't misuse all the knowledge you've shared to create a threat package and exploit this particular vulnerability. Right? So, thank you everyone for being part of this session. Hope you enjoyed as much as we enjoyed presenting this particular session to you guys. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you all.